Hello, welcome to Japanatron. My name is Dave Pavlina. Japanatron is a podcast all about life in Japan and Japanese culture. Today I want to talk about healthcare in Japan. This should be cool. I'm inevitably going to compare with American healthcare. It's because I am American, so forgive me for that. I'm going to throw in some of that. I'm also going to throw in some personal experiences that kind of demonstrate and maybe explain more vividly what Japanese healthcare is like, maybe what American healthcare is like in terms of a comparison and a contrast. All right, let's go. First, I want to cover kind of the USA stuff. All right. And I heard a quote that summarizes USA healthcare very, very well. And the quote is this: American healthcare is the finest in the world, but good fucking luck paying for it. I think that summarizes it really well. It is the finest in the world. It has that reputation. You can argue that, but it does have that reputation, I think. Rich people from other countries, they visit the USA for their healthcare services. There's a lot of stories of rich shamans and whatnot. These people with golden robes coming and getting surgery done in the USA or something. There's also been stories of rich mobsters or whatever, Yakuza members coming over and getting surgery done in the USA. Okay, so it has that reputation. It is the finest in the world, but the whole payment system is all fucked up. I mean, if you have health insurance in the USA, you're pretty much fine. And, when I was living and working in the USA, I had health insurance, so I just kind of took that for granted. But if you don't have health insurance, which actually is possible in the USA, but, hold your breath for the whole Obamacare thing and all that. But if you don't have health insurance, which is possible, you're totally fucked. And it's funny because I often hear from, Japanese people over here, that their image of USA healthcare is, oh yeah, it's all fucked up. I mean, I don't get, with your costs, what do? You just throw a body in the street or something because they can't pay? Japanese people, I hear time and time again, are just shocked to hear that people have no coverage, okay? I don't really want to get into an extended, healthcare debate, so I'll just kind of leave it at that. That's the USA image that at least I have. Japan. Also very high quality healthcare. Okay, it's first world country, capitalist, very highly developed. Okay, so they have really high quality healthcare. And you realize that Japanese people, especially the women, are known to have the longest lifespan in the world. Japanese women live the longest, I believe. I believe it's neck and neck with Korean women. So there might be some debate on that. Depending on who you talk to. But they're doing something right over here. And it definitely has part to do with their healthcare, also the fish and rice diet. I've gotten into a lot of things with their health and preventative medicine and all that, that they're doing very well over here. So they're doing something right. Japan has a socialist system, which means all citizens and foreign residents are entered into it. Now that's a huge advantage. Everyone has health insurance here. Even if you're living here and working here. Now, there was a weird thing where when I was at Eon, they actually skirted this whole system by reducing our working hours just enough so that we didn't have to enter the socialist medicine system here in Japan. I think that has come to an end. The reason they did that, and they actually gave us travel insurance, which kind of sucked because we had to pay in cash and then get reimbursed later. It could be a pain, but the advantages of the whole thing that Eon did at the time I was there was that it boosted our take-home salary, okay? Because we didn't have to enter into the socialist system and pay into it. So that was kind of nice. So that was kind of an advantage. I was young, relatively younger than I am now, so I didn't really care. When you're young, you don't really care about the really, really good health insurance. You're like, oh, I'm fine, I'm not gonna get sick or whatever. So at the time, I didn't really care. I'm like, oh, cool, more money, nice. But I think that has come to an end. I think, Eon and the Japanese government have agreed, hey, I know you gotta, that your employees are gonna have to pay into this system, but there are advantages. And so I don't know. It's it's a debate there, but it's socialist, and everyone's got it. and you can argue. The disadvantage of the socialist system, and I will say the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages, but the disadvantage is this kind of thing like, Big Brother is controlling it, you have to enter into it, and that often rubs, us Americans that, really value individual freedom so much. I don't want anyone, telling me what to do. So yeah, there's that whole socialist, the government is controlling you type of thing. But I don't know. I think when it comes to healthcare, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I mean, everyone's got to have this. I mean, no matter how young you are, you never know what's going to happen, and you could get hit by something. There could be some accident, and everyone should have health insurance. So that's the Japanese approach, this whole socialist system. Everyone is entered into it. Let's compare this whole thing with the USA. Okay. I'd say in general, and I'm speaking generally, I'm sure there are exceptions, so don't fault me for that. I'd say Japanese culturally, they take a far less aggressive, a more holistic, kind of a preventative approach. Japan definitely favors safety over strength. I would say American doctors, healthcare in general, they favor a more aggressive, less passive approach, less holistic. Stronger medicine. Let's beat the shit out of whatever you have. Hardcore. That's the American approach. Japan's a little bit more standoffish. Let's take a more passive, let's let the body heal itself type of approach. Now, both approaches have advantages and disadvantages. So, in Japan, you'll get medicine at the end of your, healthcare session. And you'll get like 5 or 6 medicines for a cold, and one of the medicines is for your sore throat, another one for your headache, another one for your fever, another one for your runny nose. And they're all separated like that, very safe and very weak. They're infamous for this. American, you'll get some kind of horse tranquilizer pill, something like NyQuil that just knocks the shit out of you. That's the American approach. Japanese approach is safety. Lots of weak medicine. Okay, they're into gargling, things like that. That's the Japanese approach. And I have kind of a story to demonstrate this. And pardon me, you might want to stop this or fast forward because this story is a little graphic. Okay, so I went out kind of partying, a drinking party. And the problem in Japan is that people keep really refilling your glass. Now, that's a problem for me because I can't stop. In America, I could stop because you kind of monitor yourself. But when people keep buying you beers and just, pouring it in, I just lose control. Okay, it's a problem. It's a personal problem. Call me an alcoholic. Call me whatever you want. But yeah, that's a problem in Japan that I have faced time and time again. And this one particular night, Saturday night, I faced this. Okay, and it's fine. Okay, whatever. I drink a lot of water. No big hangover. Next day, have a slight digestive problem. Not in the mouth, not the way in, but the way out, okay? Quick summary, little bit of blood. Kind of freaked out. So I'm thinking, I'm Googling it, okay, it could be just hemorrhoids. Just some roids, I dealt with those before, but not this bad. Could be a sign of something more serious, like colon cancer. Okay, woof, shit. Okay, either way, when there's blood coming out of somewhere that it shouldn't really be coming out, you kind of start freaking out, right? So I go to the doctor, Japanese doctor, of course, and he says, okay, the good news is it's just a bad roid. It's just a bad hemorrhoid. I'm like, okay, cool. That's kind of good news. I'm not dealing with colon cancer here. So he gives me like 12 days of medicine. Okay, and he's like, I want to see you at the end of the 12 days, okay, and just keep using this medicine. Okay, I'm like, okay. So about 5 or 6 days in, about halfway through, the blood starts really picking up, and I felt like a woman on her menstrual cycle, like I was just dripping blood. Okay, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? This never happened to me before. Oh boy. So, I'm wearing like feminine pads, like a woman, because I'm just dripping blood everywhere. I'm like, I got my asshole looks like a horror movie. It looks like something out of Walking Dead. Okay, and I'm kind of freaking out. I can't sit. It hurts when I walk, And so I go back to the doctor going like, Doc, what, is this fine? Is this a problem? Should I just keep using this medicine? Can we do something a little bit more aggressive? And he said, no, that's normal. That's fine. That means the body is healing itself. The blood is a good thing. It means that it's draining it naturally, okay? So he gave me like another 10 days of medicine, and he said, just stick with it. It could take 1 to 2 months for this thing to heal fully. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a long-term thing. I didn't think I'd be dealing with this for that long, okay? So, the great thing about the internet, I'm Googling this, you got WebMD, you got Mayo Clinic, so I'm looking at this. And, those are all, I think, American sites, definitely Western sites, of course. And given my symptoms, the American approach would have been probably far more aggressive. They would have lanced that shit off. They would have lasered it. They would have rubber banded it. They would have done something more aggressive, definitely. And I think that kind of demonstrates the Japanese approach, is they just wanted, he said, I don't think surgery is necessary. There's some definitely disadvantages to that, if we lance it or laser it or something like that. I think we really should just let the body heal itself. And I think in America, they'd probably take a far more aggressive approach. So that is my story. In America, they probably would just lance that thing off and give me a ton of meds, and just dealt with it, a couple days or something. Japan, I'm in for the long term, but hey, it's a little bit more holistic, more passive, let the body heal itself. There's advantages to that. I don't know, the jury's still out on, on this story. I don't know. Write in, let me know what you think of the Royd story. I got another story to kind of demonstrate the cultural differences with healthcare here, with the USA and Japan. It's a little bit longer story. Here we go. My family and I, we went to America with our daughter, and she was 2 at the time, just 2. We visited America, and she got really, really sick. Basically, first day there, the morning after we arrived, the best word to describe it is listless. She was just out of it. She was not her normal self. At first, we thought it was the jet lag, but she was throwing up like crazy, like Exorcist. And she wouldn't keep anything down. And, we Googled the symptoms, and they said, age 2, you got to take her to hospital right away. Okay, it's something serious. It's not jet lag, definitely. And she wasn't even keeping down, Pedialyte, those, Gatorade-type drinks that are supposed to keep you hydrated. Now, if you can't keep hydrated in a situation like this, and adults can because they know they have to, but a 2-year-old doesn't know. So she can't keep it down, and she's refusing to drink the Pedialyte. You got to keep them hydrated. So this is a big problem. So they got to do it the hard way, and IV. So the problem with this is when I visit the USA, I don't have health insurance, right? However, I'll get to the whole travel insurance, health insurance thing later. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, why the fuck didn't you just get travel insurance? And I'll cover that later in a bit. Let me finish the story first. So we find an ER that'll take us, and the ER is great. Okay, considering it's not a pediatric, they don't deal with kids. The doctor was really accommodating, really friendly. And after some really painful tries, my daughter's screaming and screaming. They get the IV in her arm, and she's much better. Of course, they're getting her hydrated. Doctor says, though, the bad news. He's like, you know what? This is not just a one-time thing. You're in for a 2 to 3 day thing here, and she's got to go to a hospital, a children's hospital. So he's like, I'm setting up a transfer. We're gonna get an ambulance. We're gonna transfer her to a children's hospital. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it was a downward spiral, getting more and more dramatic. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. Well, at least we got healthcare, And I was trying to look at the bright side, at least I'm in my own country. I speak the language. I'm with my family. I got a support network. I'm in my hometown. So there were some advantages. The whole no healthcare thing was really freaking me out a little bit, though, because, I've heard horror stories, you get some surprise bill for $100,000. What's going to happen? Of course, though, the priority on my mind is my daughter's health. So they have to transfer her in an ambulance because the IV was already in her arm. And if I just want to drive her down, they have to, they have to take the IV out. We didn't want to go through that whole painful process because how much she's screaming to get the IV in and how difficult it was. So they set up an ambulance. They transferred her to the children's hospital. And the hospital, it ended up being a 2-day stay. And a few interesting cultural things happened. The doctors were really great. Of course, like I said, American healthcare is the finest, in the world. A few interesting cultural things is that my wife was giving our daughter mugicha, which some people may know. It is a caffeine-free tea made from roasted wheat. And it is very common in Japan to give it to small children, even at age 2. There's no problem with it. So my wife's giving her tea, and she's drinking it, because she's used to it. That's what she grew up with. And the doctor's saying, shocked, just completely shocked. You're giving your daughter tea? And she's talking down to me, and I'm explaining to her, I'm like, this is what we do in Japan. And it's perfectly acceptable. And it was just interesting because it kind of hit me like, wow, my own culture is that closed-minded, and it's just funny because kids in America are often raised on soda and sugary drinks, and, even fruit juice is full of sugar. Mugicha, this wheat-based tea, is 0 calories, and it's just it's pure hydration, and it's considered really healthy. And she just couldn't understand it. It was just kind of funny because it just shocked the hell out of the doctor. And it was just interesting being American in my own country with this healthcare experience. I'm just, you got to keep an open mind. I was just trying to explain to the doctor, Japan has a longer lifespan than we do, They're doing something right over there, okay? And maybe one of these things is giving tea to kids, Keep an open mind, man. There are some advantages to Eastern approaches, Eastern medicine, and that's kind of one thing that hit me is that, this Western kind of cocky approach is that we're the best. And of course, it depends on the doctors. There are very open-minded doctors that are open to the Eastern approaches, but I don't know. It was just kind of funny. It kind of hit me like a truck. It was like, you're giving your daughter tea? So anyways, 2 nights later, she's much better. And what was it? They ended up testing her poo, and it turned out to be rotavirus. That's what she had. It was a stomach flu, stomach virus, which is what we thought it was. We didn't know which one. It could be norovirus or rotavirus, and it turned out to be rotavirus. And interesting side note is that they actually vaccine for that in the U.S. So the doctors, again, were kind of talking down to me, why wasn't she vaccinated for it? And I didn't have the answer. And the only answer I came up with is it's just not on the standard Japanese tract. They don't vaccinate for it in Japan. And I don't know the reason exactly, but my only assumption is that it's a safety concern. Maybe there's something about that particular vaccine that Japanese are more freaked out about. It's a stronger, more aggressive vaccine, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe some cultural difference, maybe some racial difference. I know that happens sometimes, is that some races just aren't as affected by certain things. And it could be, Japan is far more homogenous racially, so maybe it's not a big concern. They do vaccinate it for it in the U.S. So, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, of course, hindsight is 20/20, and in this particular case, I wish she had been vaccinated for it, of course. But I don't know. Japan probably has a reason for not doing it in the Japanese tract. I don't know. Hindsight is 20/20. So that was kind of an interesting one. So that's the story with the U.S. One with my daughter. The last side note I wanted to cover is why on earth didn't you just get travel insurance? And again, hindsight is 20/20. And of course, after this experience, I get the finest fucking travel insurance, the super premium plan. 2 reasons we did not. Number 1, we made a mistake. My wife had bought the tickets with her credit card, and we had assumed that the credit card covered, the travel insurance, included travel insurance. And we went back and we read the fine print, and it only covered the cardholder. So we got really fucked there. It only covered her, not me and not my daughter. So we got fucked there. The second reason was I always heard I had this confirmed that Japanese health insurance actually works abroad. That you could get health care treatments abroad while you're traveling, and the Japanese healthcare system will reimburse you for that. And I contacted the HR manager at my office, and she said yes, absolutely. So we'll go through the claims process. However, it's a reimbursement system, which means I had to pay everything in cash, keep all the receipts and all the invoices, and then submit a claim and then get reimbursed. Okay. And that's where the horror story begins. So there's 3 separate providers here. There was the ER, there was the ambulance company, and then there was the children's hospital. Okay. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So the first one, the ER, said, okay, you'll pay in cash today. I just used my credit card, and we'll give you a massive discount, which they did. They knocked 50% off, okay? And it was like $1,500. Chargy on the credit card, and you're done. Paid in full, stamped, sealed, approved, done. Cool, okay. Ambulance company, the most professional one of the 3. They contacted me afterwards, and they said, okay, we just want to confirm everything with your contact information. We know you live in Japan. And they took down my address. And back in Japan, I got the invoice, and that was something like $2,000. And I always heard this, that you should just immediately ask for a discount, because if you're paying in cash, they don't have to deal with insurance companies. They will more likely than not grant you a massive discount right off the bat. So I did that with the ambulance company, and they did. They knocked 50% off again, so down to $1,000. Okay, charged, sealed, done, approved, and that one was done. Okay, so they just instantly knocked 50% off. Cool. Okay. And then the children's hospital. Here's where the shithole thing begins. This one was weird. Really odd experience. I get a bill from them for like $200. And I'm thinking, what? That can't be right. There's no way this adds up. 2 nights in the hospital? Okay, and you know how with the American hospitals, they're charging you for everything, like a paper towel, a tissue, $200 for a tissue, and the weird thing is too, they kept serving food to our 2-year-old daughter, and it was like spaghetti with meatballs, and that shit just didn't add up. Why on earth would you give spaghetti and meatballs to a 2-year-old? Number one, a healthy 2-year-old. My daughter's not going to eat that. That's from Japan. And number 2, one with a stomach virus that was just vomiting like The Exorcist. There's no way in hell she was going to eat that or even look at it. The only thing she was eating the whole time that she finally ate was Cheerios. Cheerios was the lifesaver, okay? And those things were probably like, $100 a box, those little travel boxes. Okay, so I get this bill from them for $200. I'm like, okay, I'll pay that. I paid it right away, okay, done. And that was the last I heard from them. And by the way, the funny thing about the children's hospital was they mangled the shit out of my name, address, everything. And it was weird because I confirmed everything multiple times with them. And I don't understand what happened there. They mangled the crap out of my address. And it was just the worst payment billing experience ever. Okay? And it just confirms every horror story you've heard about USA healthcare. The horror stories are always involved, always revolving around paying, okay? And this was no exception, okay? And it was funny, before I left the hospital on her last day, I even stopped by the billing department saying, I don't want to just walk out of here without paying. Is everything cool? And they're like, oh, it's a holiday today, so, the regular person isn't here, so you're going to have to just leave, and we'll be in touch through mail. We'll mail you the bill. So I got that one $200 bill and paid it, done. Something like 6 months go by, okay? Don't hear from them again, okay? And I'm, whoa, okay, I guess that was it. I guess this is $200. And my parents were like, maybe it was some kind of charity case. They knew you didn't have, health insurance, blah, blah, blah. And maybe they just sort of signed it off, and, because that particular children's hospital was also a study hospital. It's like a lot of residents go there, to do the doctors in training go to do their residencies and stuff like that. Maybe it was something like that, because a lot of the doctors checking on our daughter were very young. They were in their residency. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. We were just throwing out all these sort of ideas. 6 months go by, don't hear from them. I get a letter from an international credit collection agency that says you're far overdue on your bill. And I'm like, overdue? I never got any. The only bill I got was this $200 bill. And they include this something like $7,500 bill. $7,500 bill. And this is a collection agency, right? Which means they're instantly total fucking assholes because they think that I'm, trying to escape the bill when in fact, I never even got anything. I never got a first bill. I never got a second bill. I never got anything from them besides that little $200 thing, which in retrospect, I don't even know what that was. I just paid. And they send this massive itemized bill, the collection agency does, and says, you got to pay this. And I said, I can't deal with you. I already have a claim open with the Japanese health insurance system, and they insist every receipt has to come from the hospital directly. Otherwise, they don't know what this company is. It's some company like in Switzerland or something. It has nothing to do with a hospital, it seems. So the Japanese healthcare system wants the invoice coming directly from the hospital, and they want me to pay the hospital directly. And this is 6 months later, for Christ's sakes. I had already, submitted everything for the claim. So they're kind of fucking me over there, too. So I say, no, I have to deal directly with the hospital. So I contact the hospital directly, and this credit collection agency keeps trying to stick their dick in the potatoes, because, of course, they want their fee, And I say, dear hospital, please grant a discount, because like the other two providers, there's no way I can pay $7,500. Don't be fucking ridiculous, okay? Knock 50% off, and then we can talk, okay? Because there's no way, number one, that's a little bit out of my affordable range, number one. And number two, the Japanese healthcare system is going to be like $7,500 for a couple boxes of Cheerios and 2 days of just IV. The IV didn't have any medicine. It was just keeping her hydrated for 2 days. A 2-year-old hydrated for 2 days. Yeah, $7,500 for that. Japanese healthcare system, they would reimburse based on Japanese standards, right? Not American standards, which are totally fucking different, as you can see. And so the Japanese healthcare system would have been like, no fucking way. $7,500, you're crazy. So that's why I was asking for this 50% discount. The hospital just completely continued to ignore me, okay? Phone calls. Phone call was an interesting one because of the time difference. I could never reach anyone. And so I was doing it through letter, old school letter, which was cool because I wanted everything documented. With letters, you get everything documented. It's not so easy to do that with phone calls. And I'm like, okay, it took you 6 months to reach me the first time, so I'm assuming you don't care about the delay with the whole snail mail thing going overseas. So I sent him letters saying, hey, grant me a discount. I will gladly pay this, but I have to deal with you directly for these various reasons. Never heard from him again. And that was it. Just didn't hear from him. I don't know whatever happened with that, and frankly, I don't really give a shit. It's their money. If their system for collecting the bill is that fucked up, and they don't want to deal with me, and the credit collection agency was treating me like a total fucking prick, because they think I'm escaping this bill, I'm a total fuck, which I was more than willing to pay, but I had to deal directly with the hospital, and they did not want to do that, so they just ignored me. So fine, fuck them. I'm not gonna beg them to pay them their money, so fuck you. That was a few years ago now, I think. So, who knows? Yeah, so American billing system, real fucked up. Sorry, I digress. I think I've talked a little bit too much about the USA one. Let's get back to the Japanese healthcare. I want to talk about some themes and little things that have always kind of gone like, oh, that's a little different here. A little different, kind of like that. A little different, culturally different here. One thing, and I've touched on this before in other podcast episodes, is the yearly health check. And I think this is really cool and also very socialist at the same time. The government in Japan requires companies to force their employees, basically, to get a yearly health examination, a physical. So everyone has to do this every year. Okay, it's just kind of your rite of passage when you're working and living in Japan. And it has a very socialist feeling to me. You go to this health check thing, and there's like, it's like the guy floor. It's only guys of a certain age range, and we all have to put on these like Japanese-style pajamas. And I swear to God, it's like some kind of cult, like I'm in a cult, or like I'm gonna get executed in prison, like I'm in some kind of execution thing, like I'm on death row in a Japanese prison, you know? And you go through this very systematic, very efficient, very well organized physical exam, and it's every year. And they give you this very high-tech computerized printout with kind of a report card, A, B, C, D. You know, you got to check on this. You know, be careful with this, and you know, they give you some consultation if you so desire, and the company pays for everything. You don't owe a dime for that. And it's great. I think it highlights how Japan is just better about health promotion, problem prevention. You know, they don't address problems after they've happened. They try to promote health. They try to prevent the problems. And I think that's really great. I don't remember such requirements like this in the USA. I remember getting a physical just on my own. You know, that's kind of highlights how the US is very much about individual freedom, right? You have the freedom to eat like a fuck and be overweight. You have the freedom to do that. But I don't know, the socialist thing, yeah, it might be creepy to American me at times with this whole government controlling everything. But, you know, when it comes to healthcare and someone's getting on your ass, you know, saying, hey, you got to lose weight, you got to watch your cholesterol intake, you got to watch your high blood pressure, you know, someone's getting on your ass about that, I think it works. And I think it definitely is an advantage with the healthcare system in Japan. Another theme I've noticed is when you go into the examination room. In the US, I've always used to like sitting on kind of like that examination table, or I don't know what you call it, like the little sofa type of thing with the white paper on it. And the doctor comes in, you know, 30 minutes later and then gives you a 2-minute examination. And it's just you and the doctor. And okay, that's fine. The Japanese approach is a little different, and I was always kind of taken aback by this. You go in there and the doctor's already in there, and you sit down on like a chair, like a stool. And the doctor's usually at a computer. There's like a desk, and they're at a computer. And it almost has more of an office feeling to it. You know, it's definitely a hospital, but it has kind of a more office feeling into it. And it's weird. The same setup I've seen in ERs and various different types of clinics and everything. So this is kind of the universal Japanese setup for healthcare. You go in and it's more of like an office type of thing. You sit on a stool, and the doctor's sitting there at a computer typing in your symptoms. And I used to think this was kind of unprofessional. You know, it's like the computer's doing their job. You know, it's not really a doctor. They're just kind of relying on this computer to tell them what's wrong with you. But I realize now that it's really a huge advantage, because doctors are human. They make mistakes. And sitting at a computer, you know, they have your information there, they have your history, maybe other cases that you've dealt with in the past. They have your medical history there up on the screen. I see them looking at it. They're typing in your symptoms, and it's giving possibilities for what your disease, what your situation may be. That only a computer can do, you know, this massive database or whatever they have. You know, it's similar, I guess, it's kind of, you know, what a doctor's version of, you know, the web, you know, the Mayo Clinic or WebMD. And they're looking at all this stuff. And another advantage is that you could go back another time and it could be a different doctor, but they still have the same information popping up on the screen. And I think that's just a huge advantage. And now I've kind of changed my mind on that. The computer really it does belong in the examination room. It is really a big advantage, the whole database thing. And giving the doctor feedback and statistics and everything of what may actually be wrong with you. And they have the software to help them out make a diagnosis. And I think it actually is more professional and possibly leads to more accurate diagnoses. Japan loves their technology, and this is definitely an advantage of that. They have the computer in there. I've seen a lot of cases at the dentist. They have these like high-tech cameras looking at your teeth. I've seen a lot of cases when I've gotten healthcare. I've seen healthcare in Japan, and they whip out these high-tech toys. Japan loves their technology. They rely on it. which may be a bad thing in some cases, but I like it. It's kind of nice and reassuring as an IT guy myself. You have this like high-tech robot thing looking at you, I don't know. It's kind of reassuring, Japan and their tech. They do love their technology, and God bless them for that. So yeah, I mean, the doctor sitting at the computer, that's another theme. I also want to talk about the two different things I see a lot in Japan, the kind of two different categories. Number one is the clinics. Clinics are smaller and they're everywhere. I prefer them personally because I don't have a car, and clinics are just fucking everywhere. Any neighborhood, no matter what. Even when I lived in the countryside, there's clinics just everywhere. They're like McDonald's. I don't know. You usually don't need an appointment for the clinics. Even hospitals, I'll get to those in a minute. You usually don't even need an appointment for those either. That's something kind of different with the U.S. Clinics, I prefer them for that. They're specialized, so you have to pick the right one. And this is where the kanji becomes a bitch, because those medical kanji always confuse me, and I'm asking people like, hey, I got this problem with my ass. Is this the right clinic to go to? Is this the right one? Because, you don't want to, like, walk into one that does, like, women's reproductivity, and, like, you're a guy, and you're like, I got a problem with my asshole. So you gotta pick the right one, because often these clinics are very highly specialized. The doctor specializes in this particular one. So you gotta check the kanji, or have a Japanese friend or someone to check that for you before you make an ass out of yourself. They're pretty much never open on holidays or after hours. So with the clinics, you don't want to get sick on the evenings, the weekends, the holidays. Pretty much just business hours for the most part with clinics. The other thing is, because they're so highly specialized, I've often had cases where I'm referred all over the place. I'm sick or something with this, and they're like, okay, we can take a look at you up to point A and B, but for C, D, and E, you got to go to this other clinic. And then when you get to the other clinic, F, G, H, I is like another clinic. Sometimes you get referred all over the place for certain treatments. Like, okay, we'll take a look at you. We'll give you some medicine, but you need an IV as well. So we're going to have to send you over to this other one. And I have a story, once again, sharing stories to demonstrate this one. I don't know what happened with me, but similar to my daughter, I don't know, maybe it's hereditary, I got some wicked-ass food poisoning. I think it was something I ate, that whole thing you eat and you just get sick almost right after, and it was like The Exorcist again. I'm just vomiting like projectile everywhere. And I was just really, really sick. And if you've ever had food poisoning, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, just liquid squirting out everywhere and trying to keep myself hydrated. I was so sick. So I'm like a zombie walking over to this clinic. And the clinic says, oh, I'm so sorry, but we can't. We're not the ones that do that. We're close, but not exactly right. The kanji is missing a couple strokes there. You got to go to this one, which fortunately is just like a block away, because there's so many clinics everywhere in Japan, especially Tokyo. So I go to the second clinic, and they're like, again, they do this thing, okay, we can treat you, we'll give you some medicine, but I think you really need an IV to rehydrate you. I think that would really help, and you got to go to this third clinic, okay? And unfortunately, that one was a taxi ride away, and I'm just so sick, and I'm like, the taxi driver's taking me. Unfortunately, I didn't chuck in the taxi, and they give me the IV over there, and it was much better. But it was just funny, I'm just bouncing it all around from clinic to clinic. And they're great. They're professional. They're friendly. I have no problem with the quality of the care, but it does get a little annoying sometimes. It's only business hours, and you gotta bounce around. Okay, well, that's enough about clinics, because they are great. It's just those few little disadvantages with them. To balance out the clinics, of course, you also have the hospitals. Okay, and these are the bigger ones. These are open after hours, and this is the place you'd go if you're sick, on evenings and weekends and holidays. Okay, and foreigners used to tell me, don't get sick on a weekend in Japan. And it is true to a point, mostly because all the clinics are closed, but the hospitals are open. I used to have this fear, like, oh shit, is everything totally shut down? Am I gonna die? No, of course not. I mean, even when I lived in the countryside, The city hospitals, quote unquote city hospitals, were actually open. They had the ER open, and in fact, I did get treatment once, even in the countryside, like at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. Okay, so sometimes other foreigners have given me this image, when I first moved here and I was freaking out, by getting sick at the wrong time. But it's not totally true, because I have gotten treatment at these odd hours and odd days. The hospitals, you're more likely to find English-speaking doctors, particularly in the big cities like Tokyo. And the hospital I'm always thinking of in Tokyo that I visited time and time again is St. Luke's in Tokyo. It's an international hospital. They have English-speaking doctors. If you're Japanese and so good, you don't have a Japanese friend or wife or a husband to take with you or boyfriend, girlfriend, then often the hospitals are a better bet. You're far more likely to find English service over there. Which I do in the hospitals in Tokyo. I don't know about other cities, of course. Tokyo has the most English, but I don't know. I think probably the bigger hospital is your better bet anyways, in any place you're in Japan, if you absolutely require English-speaking service. And it was interesting is that I once went to the ER it was on a holiday weekend. It was on Monday. It was a national holiday. And I went to the ER, and the image in the ER with the ER in the US is you're going to be there like all day, like 6 hours or something, if it's not life-threatening, right? In this particular case, it wasn't life-threatening. And for Christ's sakes, I was sitting there, it was like under an hour. I was in and out, ER on a holiday, a national holiday, and it wasn't life-threatening. I had no appointment, of course. I just walked in the ER in this international hospital in Tokyo, and in and out in an hour. And God bless you, Japan. You are so fucking efficient. You have your shit really well put together. And it was funny, when I was paying, I insert my hospital card into this machine, and it tells me how much it is, and I insert my money. It's like a vending machine. They have even that automated. I'm like, God bless you. The insurance company, I don't know. I've never dealt with insurance companies in Japan, really, except for that case where I had to make the claim with my daughter, and my HR department at my company handled all that for me. They submitted the claim, and then I got the money deposited to me. So God bless you, Japan. Your healthcare is great. You take a different approach from the U.S. You're different culturally. There's some good points and some bad points that I've covered, and I hope I've explained Japanese healthcare and kind of the cultural differences. So I hope you've enjoyed this. That is healthcare in Japan. Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, please, do all that stuff. I'm at Japanatron.com. That'll take you to my main site, the podcast area of my main site, which is mondaiji.com. I got all my social networking links at the top, the little icons, the YouTube, the Twitter, the Facebook, the iTunes, all that stuff. Please like me if you like me. Leave comments, contact me, let me know what you think of the show. I've really been enjoying all of your comments. I can't get back to everyone all the time, but I really enjoy the feedback. It's been really positive, and I really appreciate the love, because it encourages me to keep doing this. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day. Toodles!
Welcome to Japanatron. Japanatron, 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 Japanatron.
You have received this transmission from the Comedy Podcast Network. For more shows, visit comedypodcastnetwork.com.